Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 731. For the sake of the world, please accede to my request. The misty illusory manor has spent thousands of years patrolling the world. We've always been fair when it comes to handling matters. Could it be that you do not trust me? The man in yellow pleaded sincerely. The purpose of misty illusory manor is to restrain the acts of 3 holy lands and to monitor their behavior. Today, they will definitely accept my mediation. I can assure you this. Jun Moxie couldn't help but instantly understand why there was such a strange discord between 3 holy lands and misty illusory manor. No wonder. With 3 holy lands' great influence and power, how could they just accept being under someone else's supervision? But this person is a little too naive, isn't he? Answering honestly and truthfully to a question asked on a whim, not even attempting to lie. Looks like the misty illusory manor was just a simple world, with no rivalry. Even if there was, it would be pretty rare. Perhaps only a pure, simple place as such would be able to produce such a naive individual like this. Jun Moxie was struck with the realization. If that's the case, then dealing with misty illusory manor shouldn't be as difficult as he thought. Always fair? Patrolling the world? Then how could you not be aware of the incident that befell the Jun family 10 years ago? Jun Moxie looked at him cynically. We have never intervened in small matters of the world. Jun Moxie. If we were to interfere in every unjust incident, we wouldn't have enough power to right everything. The man in yellow hesitated for a while before managing a response. You have your reasons for making such a statement, and I do understand. All right, then I'll now let you know. Whatever I'm doing is the follow-up of this small matter of the world you speak of. Jun Moxie continued. Everything began because of that incident 10 years ago. Since you did not intervene back then, you don't need to intervene now. And even more so, you don't have any reason to interfere. So please hurry on to mind your big matters. And have a safe trip. The man in yellow was stunned. And he stood rooted to the ground. Since he appeared in the pugilistic world, as long as he brings up the great ambition of doing something for the sake of the world, no one would deny him. After all, no one wanted to be the villain in history, to oppose humans when they couldn't become the hero of the continent. Furthermore, with his high and solid Xian skills, everything has always been smooth. Regardless of what sort of matter, it was always smooth sailing. It was only when he met Jun Moxie that he learned of the existence of someone who didn't give a flying shut. But this is for the sake of the war for seizing the heavens that happens in just 2 years' time. A war that concerns the future of mankind. The man in yellow looked angrily at Jun Moxie. How could you be so senseless toward the greater good? Yes. Actually, I'm doing this for the war for seizing the heavens too. I'd also like to ask. You won't be participating in the war for seizing the heavens, will you? The man in yellow was taken aback. And snapped irritably. The misty illusory manor has never and will never participate in the war for seizing the heavens. That's great. That's great. You see, I'll definitely be participating in it. But my current martial arts is still too weak. It's highly likely that I'll die if I go. It's not a big deal if I were to die. Everyone dies in the end. But it'll affect the overall outcome of the war for seizing the heavens. As such, when the world faces imminent threat, the lives of everyone will be in danger. Jun Moxie mourned dramatically, sighed, and said, Thus, Mr. Ambassador, for the safety of the continent and the sake of the world, I humbly beg of you to transfer all your martial arts to me via the Guanding technique. I definitely won't disappoint your hopes for me. I'll destroy the grotesque outsiders. For the sake of peace and harmony for the world, I will do my part. What do you think? Jun Moxie spoke with a face full of high hope and holiness, with a genuine sincerity in his attitude. The man in yellow felt like fainting, and he was almost swept along by Jun Moxie's words. I do know the Guan Ding technique, but how could I do so? The man in yellow replied in realization. Even if your intentions for partaking in the war for seizing the heavens are commendable, if I were to transfer all of my martial arts cultivation to you, wouldn't I disappear into a puff of smoke immediately? For the sake of the war for seizing the heavens. For the sake of the world. What's the harm in making this sacrifice? Jun Moxie said harshly. Since you won't be participating in the war for seizing the heavens anyway, then won't all those splendid Xian skills you have go to waste? Won't they just be brought with you into your grave? Isn't that meaningless? Why don't you make your sacrifice right now? Then you can aid my chances of victory in the war for seizing the heavens. As such, I believe the entire continent would forever remember your great, selfless sacrifice today. The world would worship your valiant soul forever. You shall become the timeless hero of the world. How's that? Will you still refuse me? No way. No way. The man in yellow shook his head furiously. How could I do that? This is just fooling around. There are other measures that can be taken for the war for seizing the heavens. Not such a method that will harm the interests of others. I've painstakingly cultivated and practiced my whole life. It did not come by easily. Definitely no. No matter how convincing and smooth-talking you are. It is impossible. It's really impossible. Jun Moxie's expression turned serious, despairing as if his heart is broken. You mean you are willing to become that villain in history? Are you really so senseless for the greater good? Where's your conscience? Definitely not possible. Perspiration was dripping down from his nose, and he wiped it away pathetically. I am sorry, but I really cannot be of any help. Jun Moxie sighed. Changing his tone, he asked, then what is your purpose of coming here? I'm here to convince you few families to put everything on hold temporarily for the sake of the war for seizing the heavens, for the sake of the world, for the greater good. This. The man in yellow was stumped by the words he was saying. He suddenly realized that all these reasons and great meanings were said by this youth just a few moments ago. And he had just outrightly refused this noble plea. Although the other party had made an outrageous request of him, but wasn't it the same of his request to the other party? Honestly, making a comparison, if he himself was unable to accept the other party's request, what sort of reason did he to request of the other party then? He let out a loud sigh and turned to Mei Shuiyan. Venerable Mei, what are your intentions then? My intentions are her intentions. Jun Moxie said firmly. I'm not asking you. The man in yellow sighed, slightly raising his arm. A cloud of eerie, milky white mist scattered, and Jun Moxie suddenly realized that he could no longer move. Jun Moxie was taken by surprise. He was currently a solid level 2 venerable. To think that someone was able to restrain him in a second with such ease, what level of Xian skill would that require? A technique of such a level easily surpassed Mei Shuiyan's world cage, and by a few folds. Mei Shuiyan let out a soft sigh before bowing slightly. This great saint. It is just as Moxie said. His words are as good as mine. Moxie is able to make any decisions on my behalf, regardless of timing or matter. I will always stand by him, even if it's a choice that concerns the war for seizing the heavens. Saint. Mei Shuayan actually addressed this man in yellow as Great Saint. The man in yellow laughed bitterly, obviously dejected. If that's the case, looks like I was asking for contempt then. I shall take my leave now. He got up and exploded into a blinding dazzle without a single noise. That light disappeared in a second. So did that yellow-clad figure. Mei Shuayan couldn't comprehend Jun Moxie's actions today, even finding it difficult to accept. But until the end, she still chose to support him without turning back. Especially before others. She would not throw Jun Moxie's face. Hee hee. Little Shuayan. Such an obedient girl. Let older brother dote on you. Jun Moxie, who had finally regained his freedom, immediately huddled over to Mei Shuayan ingratiatingly. Actually, the restraint the man in yellow had casted upon him only had temporary effect. Jun Moxie just had to activate the art of unlocking heaven's fortune to remove the restraints instantly. But even then, Jun Moxie had broken out in a cold sweat. Because in that short moment, if the other party had wanted his life, they could have easily killed him 10 times over. So Jun Moxie quietly decided in his heart that he had to be more cautious from now on. There were no limit to the universe. There will always be someone stronger. Then hearing Mei Shuayan's words, he couldn't help but feel touched. After all, he wasn't very nice in his tone and words earlier. All the people had already been killed anyway, so there was no other issue. That's why he shamelessly sought comfort by being chummy. Mei Shuayan let out a sigh of contempt, saying coldly, "Weren't you very heroic just now? Didn't you say, a mere woman? Stand aside and wait? Why are you bothering with this woman now? Aren't I the silly one? It's okay if I'm silly, but what if I make the clever young Master Jun silly with me?" Jun Moxie chuckled and went behind her, skillfully massaging her shoulders, laughing apologetically. "Actually, I didn't finish that sentence earlier. I meant to say, aside from Shuayan, all the other women, get out of the way, but I was in a rush and missed out many words. It's true. Please believe me." Mei Shuayan turned around to avoid his massage, her face as cold as ice. "Don't bother about me." Jun Moxie grinned, and suddenly his palms slid down quickly, kneading and copping a feel of her round mounds, before retracting his hands and standing still with a stoic and serious expression. Mei Shuayan shivered, face turning completely red. Feeling her entire body going weak, she fell backward. Jun Moxie caught her quickly, but exclaimed, This. In a public place like this. This. It is improper for men and women to have contact. This lady, please get up quickly. I'm a proper and pure person." His mouth might have been speaking of his purity, but his limbs were acting otherwise, completely hugging Mei Shuayan tightly, refusing to let go. Mei Shuayan was so embarrassed her entire face was burning red, and she struggled. "Let go of me quickly. So many people are watching." "Oh. That means, if not so many people are watching, I don't have to let go." "No problem. I can wait till then." Jun Moxie grinned, playfully blowing into her ear. Mei Shuayan felt her entire body going weak again, her cheeks and ears bright red. "You're still not going to let go?" "I'm not going to let go." He blew another warm puff of air at her ear. "Do you still dare be this fierce next time?" "What? I'm incapable of punishing you." "Let go first. Then we talk." Mei Shuayan struggled with all her might. "We talk first. Then I'll let go." Jun Moxie was firm and refused to let go. The warmth of his palms passed through the garments on Mei Shuiyan's waist and seeped into it. On the way to Dongfang family, Jun Moxie had completely mastered a thorough understanding of Mei Shuiyan's weak points, and he utilized this knowledge fully at this moment, causing this venerable Mei to be weak and breathless. Mei Shuiyan was left without a choice. So with a blush, she whispered into his ear, I won't dare to any more. Her voice as quiet as a mosquito. Good girl. Jun Moxie laughed deviously in satisfaction, only letting her go after he had landed a hit on her B***tox. With a whoosh, Mei Shuiyan instantly distanced herself away from Jun Moxie before turning around, her face still red from embarrassment. She was met with the sight of all the Xian beasts whom under the command of the Beast Kings stood at attention with their backs facing them, pretending that they did not see anything. But all their ears were perked up. Why you've gotten me killed. Covering her face, Mei Shuiyan ran toward the Jun family. Jun Moxie grinned and was about to follow after her when Big Bear huddled over, wearing a smile. Brother-in-law, are you done? What? Am I done? Jun Moxie was confused for a moment, but then understood what Big Bear was asking. Relishing in the aftertaste of the short encounter earlier, he couldn't help but rub his palms that were still tinged in a pinkish hue. Yeah, I'm done. Amazing. Big Bear gave a thumbs up. Brother-in-law, I really admire you. You're truly manly. Even Big Sister is at your mercy. All of us are completely in awe. Really? Of course. That's how men should be. If you can't handle your own wife, how could you be called a man? Jun Moxie added gleefully. Big Bear, let me tell you, when it comes to handling your wife, you have to be more strict. If she's disobedient, kicks and punches are nothing. Most of the time you should use a rod to spank. Spank till they beg for mercy. That's what it means to be masculine. Yes. 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 Brother-in-law is wise. I will definitely remember this teaching. Big Bear replied humbly, committing this revered teaching for disciplining a wife into his memory. Well, you can continue slowly experiencing it. I'll head over there first. Jun Moxie left in a hurry. Of course Jun Moxie was anxious after hearing what Jia Qingyun said about Tian Xiang. But he knew that being anxious would not help the situation. So much time had already passed. If it really happened, even if he rushed over now, he would still be late. If it hadn't happened by now, then it would not happen. The only correct solution was to completely settle the affairs here as quickly as possible, then rush over. If he were to mess up now, both sides will be held up. Then there will only be loss and no gain. So regardless of if something happened at Tian Xiang, and what sort of matter, it will have to wait. Jun Moxie firmly believed that with his grandpa's wits, he would definitely be able to hang in there. Furthermore, there was still all the arrangements he made before he left. If there are any mishaps, then I will make this entire world join Grandpa in his grave. What is the war for seizing the heavens even worth? It can't even be compared to even a single strand of hair on Grandpa's head. I will only care about those I choose to care about. Jun Moxie gritted his teeth and made this vow in his heart. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 732. Let you all deal with yourselves. Upon arriving at the area the Jun family had encircled, Jun Moxie was greeted by the sight of the remaining members of the Xiao family being tied up, with looks of defeat and despair on their faces. Xiao Xingyun was set aside, his entire body limp, and beside him were a few more bloodied corpses. Jun Wuyi, Dongfang Wen Xian, Guan Qinghan, and the rest stood aside, faces full of anguish. What's the situation? Jun Moxie walked over quickly. The Xiao family all know they are going to die anyway and refuse to admit who exactly killed your father. Tears were about to fall from Dongfang Wen Xian's eyes, which had turned red. 100 people and no one wants to explain? They sure have backbones. Kicking up a sword with his foot, he gripped it firmly and was about to go in for the kill when he suddenly recalled something. On the way back to Tian Xiang from Tiannan, he had used hypnosis and the Great Spirit deterrence technique on Xiao Buyu, and Xiao Buyu revealed who they were. Xiao Buyu said, "That was in the Great Army base. It was so dangerous. I remember there was Xiao Han, Xiao Yang, Xiao Zhen, Xiao Cheng, Xiao Guang." Jun Moxie carefully replayed all these memories in his head. He stood still and closed his eyes, letting those unforgettable names pass through his heart slowly. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, and an intense and imposing killing aura emerged and spread out like angry waves, encompassing all 100 people in it. This was the frenzied aura of a solid 2-level venerable. The number of people who could withstand it in this world could easily be counted. Even Xiao Xingyun, who had the highest cultivation level in the Xiao family, was powerless when met with it. They spent all their lives growing up in the snowy mountains, so they were already used to the cold. But being encompassed in Jun Moxie's aura, that killing intent passed right through their clothes, through their skin, into their muscles, deep into their spines, chilling their hearts completely. "Xiao Yang!" Jun Moxie shouted. The Xiao family was all giddy from this shout that was hollered while their hearts were gripped by fear. "Here. Ah. I am not Xiao Yang. I really am not Xiao Yang." A middle-aged man spoke, quickly correcting himself midway. "Yes. Yes. Yes. You. Someone. Grab this fellow out. I want to speak with him." Jun Moxie said, clearly pleased. Dongfang Wenqing flew forward and kicked this person out of the group. Next. Who is Xiao Zhen? Jun Moxie beamed at the group of people who were all bundled up. Only that the cold, sharp gleam in his eye was so chilling that it could completely change the countries in the warm south into the cold snowy mountains in an instant. Everyone continued to sit meekly on the ground, unwilling to answer. No one is going to talk. Very united, aren't you? That's good. Jun Moxie walked over to the person closest to him. He gently asked, "Are you Xiao Zhen?" That man shook his head furiously, avoiding to meet his eyes. "Raise your head and look at me," Jun Moxie suddenly shouted. That middle-aged man involuntarily lifted his head, his weary eyes meeting Jun Moxie's. As if attracted by a magnet, he couldn't break eye contact. It was like an endless pit had appeared before him, and his heart, mind, and soul were all sucked into it. "Then who is Xiao Zhen? Can you tell me?" Jun Moxie coaxed gently. A captivating light gleamed from his eyes with a bewitching myriad of colors, entering the eyes of this middle-aged man. "All right. I'll tell you." The middle-aged man suddenly had a change in attitude. Angrily cursing. This bunch of scums. Murdering the general in white back then. I already found these degenerate son of beaches irritating way back. How could such a heroic figure die innocently at the hands of such crooks? I cannot accept this. All the members of the Xiao family were stunned, almost as if they were struck by lightning, and didn't know him at all. Good. Very good. Well said. Jun Moxie cut the ropes binding him with the tip of his sword. The middle-aged man got off the ground angrily, continuing furiously. Especially Xiao Zhen. That fecking bastard. He is the biggest sore in my eye. A pile of turd. Completely useless but still have the cheek to flirt around? I just feel like vomiting. I want to spit in his face each time I see him. The Xiao family was completely speechless. They looked at him as if he were an alien. Yes. I can completely understand how you feel. Now will you please point out, who is Xiao Zhen? Jun Moxie said tenderly. Me. The middle-aged man pointed at his nose, and declared accusingly, angrily and scornfully. I am Xiao Zhen. That bastard son of a bitch. Jun Moxie was speechless, and his eyes almost popped out of his sockets. He staggered, almost landing onto the snowy ground. Dang it. I'm too dang lucky. What sort of sorcery is this? He wanted to watch them bite each other like dogs for entertainment, orchestrating some ultimate betrayal right before they die. But who knew he was so goddamn lucky to get the right guy with a probability of only 1%. With this kind of luck, I should really go by the lottery. Xiao Zhen, is a real bastard. My heart must be blinded by lard to commit something that wicked. I really should be cut into pieces. Implicate my entire clan. Die without any descendants. Even if I had descendants. Let the males become gigolos and the females prostitutes for every single generation forever. This despicable Xiao Zhen should also be banished into the 18 levels of hell and never be reborn. Even if I'm reborn, I must be born as a lowly, lustful breeding pig. Xiao Zhen was insulting and scolding himself under the instructions of Jun Moxie. Everyone's brows were twitching out of control. No one had ever been able to scold and insult so endlessly the way he does. And the person he was scolding was himself. This was just, everyone was completely speechless. Even Jun Moxie, who was the mastermind that started it all, was about to vomit blood. What is this? Stop. Stop. Jun Moxie immediately halted the scolding. Since you are so righteous, why don't you point out the remaining few who joined you? They've committed such a wicked act. By pointing them out, you are doing the act of heavens. Punishing your own family in the name of righteousness. Naturally your family and the world would sing of your praise. This is a noble cause. And you'll leave your name in history. Xiao Zhen actually had a look of pride on his face after hearing these words. As if he really could do something great for the people and was accepting people's praises. He turned around feeling pleased with himself. And looked at his own family clan. An extremely odd expression like that of a cat teasing its prey appearing on his face. Looking at Xiao Zhen's gaze, a look of despair broke across the faces of everyone in the Xiao family. Some even looked longingly at the snowy grounds, feeling jealous of those comrades who had been crushed to death. At the very least, they wouldn't have to suffer like this. The situation was too peculiar. Could Jun Moxie really be a demon? To toy with the lives of people. To force family members to turn against each other. Jun Moxie. You're despicable. To use demonic magic to make Xiao Zhen lose his mind. Make him lose himself and kill his own family. Why you are truly vicious. Xiao Xingyun hollered, his face turning purple, looking as though he was going to throw up blood. After the 9 elders had returned to Blizzard's Silver City, naturally Xiao Xingyun would learn of how his brother was made to perform striptease under Jun Moxie's hypnosis. He was always wary of it. But seeing how Jun Moxie used the same skill again, he couldn't help but feel infuriated and fearful. Xiao Xingyun, if you don't shut your trap, I'll make you do a striptease for everyone to appreciate. Just like Xiao Buyu. Jun Moxie spat without even turning back. Xiao Xingyun might have been extremely infuriated. But upon hearing this, he bit his lips and lowered his head indignantly. He did dare not take this risk because he knew that Jun Moxie was capable of making it happen. He did not fear death. But if he were to die without any dignity in such a humiliating manner, it would be horrifying. On the other side, Xiao Zhen had already began pointing out the culprits. Xiao Cheng. Do you think I can't recognize you just because you hid your face? Even if you turned into ashes, I'll be able to recognize your ass that is worse than a beast's. Xiao Zhen said coldly, pointing to a skinnier middle-aged man. That person shivered. Raising his head, he gritted his teeth and spat. Xiao Zhen. You ungrateful, betraying bastard. You have no conscience. Aiding the enemy against your own kin. You will never die peacefully. He was already pulled out of the crowd by Dongfang Wenjian as he finished his sentence. What does that ungrateful bastard Xiao Zhen have to do with me? I'm a good person who is punishing my own kin in the name of righteousness. Xiao Zhen defended gleefully, pointing at another person. That's Xiao Guang. What are you hiding for? Where can you hide? This is Xiao Zhong. That crippled one there is Xiao Dong. With Xiao Zhen's identification, a total of 9 people had been called out and arranged in a neat row at the front. There are still 3 more. But those 3 bastards are sure unlucky, because they were crushed to death by rocks earlier when the mountain collapsed. The mastermind was Xiao Han, but because of the previous incident, he was left thoroughly crippled and was kept in the secret chamber. So he is not present here. Xiao Zhen turned around, looking extremely pleased with his own noble act. The other Xiao family members cursed in their hearts. How were they unlucky? Clearly they were too lucky to die in such a swift and clean manner. All those who had been identified were definitely going to be tormented. Is it just the few of you? Did we miss anyone? Jun Moxie frowned. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 733. That incident back then. There were 2 seniors who supervised the operation, Xiao Zhua and Xiao Yu, the 2 there. But they didn't do anything as the 10 of us were enough. They only tagged along just in case. But everything had proceeded smoothly, so they weren't put into use. Xiao Zhen pointed at the 2 old men who had turned deathly pale and shivering. They had just let out a sigh of relief, thinking that they were safe. Very good. I want to know how it all happened, especially my father. How did he die? Whose hand did he die in? Jun Moxie felt a wave of fury that stemmed from the grievance in his heart as he looked upon the bunch of people before him. Ever since he integrated into this world and blended into this family, he completely accepted that he was Jun Moxie. Every time he remembered the names Jun Wu Hui, Jun Wu Meng, Jun Mo Yu, Jun Mo Cho, and thought of his closest kins that he had never met, his heart ached with a pain that was indescribable. Yes, a sharp pain. A legendary general, a heroic man of his time, to die tragically in the hands of mere crooks. Wronged for 10 whole years, only to get an explanation right now. He protected hundreds and thousands of Tian Xiang civilians. After he met with harm, the people were distraught and angered, but almost no one sought revenge for him. He was no longer around, and his family clan had begun to decline, becoming weaker by the day and turning into the target of all the enemies. While everyone was adding insult to injury, no one stood to speak up for their justice. When the Dongfang family tried to seek revenge, almost the entire pugilistic world just watched from the sides. They just wanted to see if karma was real. Everyone knew the indignation of the Jun family, but they all chose to just look on from the sides. When the Dongfang family's influence was greatly reduced, and they were forced out of the pugilistic world and forced to make an oath that was impossible to break, still no one chose to stand up for them. What was the morality and justice in the pugilistic world was all about? Jun Moxie felt his heart turn cold. When Jun Wuhui was around, Tian Xiang was at peace with his protection, and everyone took it for granted. But after he was gone and those people experienced the taste of being invaded, humiliated, then would they speak gratefully? Who would dare behave like this if the general in white was still around? Every time he recalls such things, Jun Moxie felt resentful, felt livid. Even beasts knew how to repay kindness. But humans, ironically, did not. Pathetic. Truly pathetic. Regardless of whether heroes created history, or history created heroes, only when the heroes left the world did people remember their good. Was death the only thing that would make people remember the heroes who had given everything for them? And merely remember them? Jun Moxie had often questioned his heart. His father, Jun Wuhui, sacrificed his life to protect so many people. But was it truly worth it? What rights did those ingrates have to be protected? The soldiers were bleeding and risking their lives on the front lines to protect dignity and peace. But the people were still drinking away, fooling around, gambling away. Those who were corrupted continued in their acts, and those who were unfaithful continued to be unfaithful. They continued to chase fame and status, still leading their befuddled existence. Even the commoners, leading their regular lives happily, who would think of those soldiers who were miles away, fighting stained in blood, struggling in despair? Even when the last drop of blood was shed from their body, their eyes were looking at the home they could never return to. Home, the place those soldiers dreamed of daily, the motivation for them to keep on battling, and also the place that abandoned them as they were fighting with their lives. Looking at the 11 members of the Xiao family before him, Jun Moxie's eyes were filled with rage, a fury that could not be quelled. After he made that statement, the Xiao family people lowered their heads. Even Xiao Zhen was in deep thought, trying with much difficulty to recall the scenario back then. It wasn't certain whether too much time had passed, making the incident hard to recall, or they had simply never taken a small matter like killing the general in white to heart. No one answered. Say it. Jun Moxie thundered. That year. Xiao Zhen frowned, clearly trying very hard to recall. I recall that we had informed Great Elder and followed Xiao Han down the mountains. We traveled for almost a month before we finally reached Tian Guanlin. There, the two large troops were battling and security was very tight. Looking at the tents that occupied such a vast land, we all felt powerless. How easy could it be to kill the general with all these troops? We were all Sky Xian, and the two seniors were only at their peak of Sky Xian. Even if a spirit Xian had come along, it might still have been impossible. But Xiao Han claimed that he had already made preparations, and there was no risk to take. That night, Xiao Han had left first, and we had no idea what he went to do. Only after a day and a night did he return with a group of men in black following him. In the hand of one man in black was a golden arrow token. That was the token that allowed one to enter in and out of Tianxiang military base without any obstruction, on the same level of an imperial decree. That person said it was a fake. But at that moment, all of us felt it was clearly the real thing. If that was a fake, with the strict control of the general in white, how could we infiltrate the base? If it was a fake, then we wouldn't even dare to take the risk. Then this man in black took out many clothes for us to change into and pose as his followers, bringing us into the military camp. The entire process was so smooth that it was unbelievable. As long as that golden arrow token flashed, there was no obstruction at all. No one ran any checks, and we made our way straight to the commander's tent. This left us baffled, for even if that golden arrow token was the real thing, it was too effective. It was only after that did we learn that the person clad in black had made multiple trips here 2 months prior with the golden arrow token. To the troops of Xiang, both the token and person were familiar faces, so they had no suspicion. Or else, how would this group of 20 pass through the military base? Jun Moxie slowly clenched his fists. He could totally guess that it was Xiao Han who had conspired with these people before turning to the snowy mountains for some more backup. Which also goes to say that those men in black were members of the Blood Sword Hall, which meant that those imperial troops he killed earlier had already planned to kill his father beforehand. Even if Xiao Han did not make a move, they would still have done it. It was just that there was a higher chances of success to have Xiao Han and the rest do it, with no fear of pursuit from the Jun family. To have plotted for such a long time. To use his frequent visits to make the troops lower their guard. Jun Moxie also knew where the magically effective golden arrow token came from. Because only one person in the world could hand out a token like that, the Emperor of Tian Xiang. Yang Huayu. Only a token that he had handed out personally would not raise any suspicion from the Tian Xiang army. To the point that no one dared to reveal the whereabouts of that golden arrow token afterward. But the tragedy was all hidden in this golden arrow token. When we entered the commander's tent, there were many people discussing how to counter the enemies. Jun Moxie was still clad in his armor, donned in white, sitting on the commander's seat. On his right was Jun Moxie. Below were 15 other generals sitting on 2 sides. When we entered, the first to notice us was Jun Moxie. That time, Jun Moxie said, "Old Meng, why did you change a group of people this time? You sure have quite a lot of underlings." Many other generals who were present started laughing, clearly familiar with this man in black. But Jun Moxie was very calm. He kept observing us, but did not say a word. After a while, he said, "Since the imperial envoy is here, let's stop here for today. You also go. I have something important to talk to the imperial envoy about." That last line was directed at Jun Moxie. Though he had not mentioned any names, it seemed as if Jun Moxie had already noticed that we came with ill intents. Because while he sounded calm and peaceful in his tone, his face had changed a little, thinking back. Perhaps he was hoping that we did not recognize Jun Moxie and let him leave like that, but we had came to target the 2 of them. How could we not recognize Jun Moxie? Even if we couldn't recognize him, that Meng fella sure could have. Then all the other generals headed out. But Jun Moxie remained behind, looking at his elder brother wordlessly. He ignored us, but his expression changed to that of grief and anger. After everyone had left, Jun Moxie turned around and stared at us, saying, "You're from the Xiao family?" This was when we realized that Jun Moxie had noticed something was amiss the moment we had entered. But against us, the regular generals stood no chance. So it would be useless if we were to engage in battle. And those generals held important roles in the military. If they met mishap, all the millions of Tian Xiang soldiers would become without a leader. So he chased all of them out. Plus we had already infiltrated the commander's tent, It was useless even if he intended to trap us within and battle. Furthermore, we had the golden arrow token. If he tried to activate the troops, that would be the same as trying to start a rebellion. They stood no chance of survival now that they were surrounded by so many experts. So why would he implicate the other soldiers? So he could only request to protect the lives of those under him first. Only Jun Wu Meng noticed Jun Wu Hui's face, and the sentence did not mention his name, and realized that something was amiss. So he also refused to leave. Xiao Zhen had only finished that sentence when a cracking of knuckles could be heard. It was Jun Wu Yi clenching his fists, tears welling up in his eyes. Dongfang Wen Xian felt herself swaying, but she still forced herself to stand upright. She bit her lips so they started to bleed. Jun Moxie's expression did not change. If I had entered the wrong body and became Jun Wu Hui in that moment, what would I do? Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 734. The Death of the General. Obviously, there was no way to win them in a fight. Since the enemy was already in his tent, there was nowhere else to run. If he panicked at that moment, perhaps none of his comrades in the tent would have been able to escape. If Jun Moxie was in that situation, he had a few options. 1. He would hint in his words for those outside to surround, attack, and die with the enemy. But in that scenario, he would still die first. 2. He would still find a way to escape first, knowing clearly that it would be impossible. But the difference in strength was still too great. It would be pointless, and he would still die. If it were him, he would still put up a fight till his death. Despite knowing that there would be no chance of leaving alive, he would still take a shot at it. This was his personality. Jun Wu Hui was clearly different from him in terms of his personality. No matter what, the Jun Wu Hui at that point in time definitely had no chance of surviving. But even knowing the hopeless situation he was in, the general in white's first thought was not of himself, but of the safety of his comrades. So his first decision was to chase all these comrades out of this doomed place, leaving himself alone to battle against death. He used his own connectedness to exchange for the safety of the comrades under him. Perhaps the only regret he had was that his second brother was not able to leave. Xiao Han stood out, gritting his teeth. He spat, "Jun Wu Hui, do you recognize me?" Jun Wu Hui smiled and replied, "I believe you are Master Xiao Han of the Xiao family in Blizzard Silver City. Though we have never met, but I can guess that it is you." Then he stood up, still smiling, and continued, "You're here to kill me, right? Did you think that by killing me, my third brother would be tormented for the rest of his life?" Xiao Han, you thought so, didn't you? Xiao Zhen continued, clearly impressed by Jun Wu Hui in his tone. Then Xiao Han said, "You are a talent of this world. If I had a choice, I would not wish to kill you too. But who made you the brother Jun Wu Yi held in such high respect? There are two people in this world who can completely destroy Jun Wu Yi with their deaths. One is Han Yen Yao, but I cannot kill her. The other person is you. And I happen to have the ability to do so. So why would I not? So please, Great General Jun, please don't blame me. If you wish to blame someone, you can only blame that good third brother of yours." Jun Wu Hui said, "Why would I blame Jun Wu Yi? He is honest and true to his feelings. Where is the wrong in that? The one who is wrong is you. Even if you have killed every single one of us, my third brother will not break down. That is my third brother, a man down to his very bones. No matter what sort of situation he meets, He will face them bravely. He will never break down. I watched him grow up. And his indomitable personality is what I admire most about him. Xiao Han, I'm afraid you have miscalculated. Jun Wuyi could no longer hold it in. Voice raspy, he cried out, "Big brother!" And tears streamed down his face. Xiao Han had replied, "Whether he breaks down or not, I will know once you are dead. A pity you are destined not to be able to see it." Jun Wuyi smiled and said, "If that's the case, there's no harm for you to wait and see." After that, he sighed and said, "So many experts. Looks like you definitely have to kill me." We had enough fighting prowess at this point, and the seniors had the cultivation level of a peak sky xian. Most of us in the 12 had reached the beginning stage of a sky xian, while the remaining experts were all peak earth xian level. Jun Wuhui looked at the colors of our xian qi, and smiling, he said, "We brothers have always been prepared to die since the day we stepped onto the battleground. But what we expected was to die on the front lines, not in our own commander's tent. But we Jun brothers will never die in the hands of other people." Xiao Han said, "Jun Wuhui, you are a legend that I admire. So I can make an exception and give you some time to write one last letter to your family members. The Xiao family won't be bothered by the revenge of a mere worldly family." Jun Wuhui laughed upon hearing this. Of course Blizzard's Silver City won't be bothered by the Jun family, but by giving me a chance to leave a letter. Were you planning to use my suicide note to land a blow on my third brother and family? But did you know, I, Jun Wuhui, have always admired and cared for my third brother. As long as I am alive, I will not let anyone use my name to hurt him. Even if I am dead, I will not let myself be used. So thank you for your generosity. But I do not need it." Xiao Han laughed coldly and said, "Do you still believe that you are that general in white who commands millions of troops even until now? Not only will you die, but I'll even make that precious third brother of yours wish for death." Jun Wuhui replied calmly, "That's your problem. But the men of the Jun family will never ever give in. The Jun family ancestral teaching, having balls does not make you a man. It is the incomparably indomitable spirit which does." I have always thought it was a little crude to be said out loud, but today, I want to say it loudly, feck it. He started smiling pleasantly after saying this. After saying this, he turned around to look at his second brother, Jun Wu Meng, and smiling, he said, "Wu Meng, looks like we really have to go this time. We brothers have spent all our lives fighting at the borders, and we barely get a couple of days to reunite in a year. To think that we will be leaving together at the end." Jun Wu Meng laughed loudly and said, "Brother, when we've reached hell, I will still stand before you and be your shield without change. Just as our ancestors said, feck it. Father has sister-in-law and third brother to take care of him. I rest assured. I shall take my leave first." After saying that, Jun Wu Meng sat on the chair, drew his sword, and cut his throat. Even when he died, there was not a slightest look of regret on his face. Jun Wuhui chuckled and said to us, "Please wait for a while. It won't take too long. I want to help my brother tidy himself up first. This boy is always in a mess. Being able to command thousands of troops with ease but still unable to groom himself, always giving me a headache." Then he carefully tidied Jun Wuhui's body, tying up his belt, making him sit upright, and then gently wiped Jun Wu Meng's face. He had done all this very quickly, as if he had done it countless of times before. Then he turned around, and standing before the seat of the commander, he said, "My second brother has already went in for the battle on my behalf, so I should join him soon. Going in too deep in battle all alone is not a good thing. After that, he made 4 weird gestures with his hands and his expression was also quite odd. Then, he drew his sword and stabbed it right through his heart, dying immediately. Aside from an uncontrollable sobbing, the surroundings were completely silent. What weird gesture did he make? Donghua when Accede asked quickly, her face streaked by tears, but there was no concealment of her hope. Xiaozhen looked at her oddly and mimicked the gesture Jun Wuhui did before he died. Like this. Jun Wuhui clenched his left fist and hammered his heart lightly 3 times, then kept it there. His right hand held the sword, piercing through his left hand and into his heart, nailing it in place. But before he died, his expression was that of utmost gentleness. Wu Hui. Donghua when Xiang staggered as she cried out bitterly, even to the end, you were still thinking of the 4 of us. She trembled all over, completely overwhelmed by distraught, fainting all over a sudden. Guan Qinghan, who was prepared by her side, caught her quickly. Everyone understood instantly. So that's how it is. Jun Wuhui did not mention his wife and children even at his end because he feared that Xiao Han and the rest would be reminded to go after them to eradicate them completely. But those 4 gestures embodied all the lingering attachments this general in white had. Left hand clenched into a fist and hammering lightly on his heart, when Xiang, Mou, Mo Cho. Be it when Xiang, Mou, or Mo Cho. They were all in his heart. So he only lightly hammered his heart thrice to represent 3 people, when Xiang, Mou, Mo Cho. He still hoped that his wife and children would remain untroubled. The sword was Mo Xie. Piercing that sword through his fist and heart, nailing it down, was the greatest dying wish of the general in white, to nail all the love and emotions he had toward his wife and 3 sons into his heart and bring it along with him. He did not say it, but this peerless hero wordlessly dedicated the last bit of time in his life to his wife and sons. Everyone was speechless, and they glared angrily at all the members of the Xiao family. The main culprits. They single-handedly created this tragedy. They must die. Jun Wuyi felt his heart hurt as if it were being crushed. He could only feel that his heart was going to burst. He gasped for air. But it was useless, all the pain, agony and anguish had filled his entire chest entirely. There was no room left for anything else. The tears in his eyes fell uncontrollably and he trembled all over. Never belittle a man who cried. Everyone has to endure sadness at some point in one's life. In the blurriness from his tears, Jun Wuyi felt like his big brother was standing right before him, that powerful and determined voice echoing, "Why would I blame Jun Wuyi? He is honest and true to his feelings. Where is the wrong in that? The one who is wrong is you. Even if you have killed every single one of us, my 3rd brother will not break down. That is my 3rd brother, a man down to his very bones. I, Jun Wuhui, have always admired and cared for my 3rd brother. As long as I am alive, I will not let anyone use my name to hurt him. Even if I am dead, I will not let myself be used. Big brother. It's all my fault. I've caused you harm." Jun Wuyi shouted to the heavens, his mind going out of control. A mouthful of blood came out his throat, and he collapsed onto the ground. Even as he landed on the floor, the guilt in his heart still kept multiplying as he cried out loudly. In this moment, he felt clearly that even if he died instantly, it wouldn't be sufficient to repay his big brother's efforts toward him. Father has sister-in-law and 3rd brother to take care of him, I rest assured. This was the last sentence his 2nd brother said before he died. Jun Wuyi hammered his fists into the snow, his throat so tight he couldn't say a single word. In that haziness, it seemed as if big brother Jun Hui and second brother Jun Meng stood before him, clad in their familiar armors. Looking at him with great concern, Jun Hui was distraught. Reaching his hands out to thin air, he hollered, "Big brother! Second brother! Take me with you. I have sinned. I am guilty. I should die. I am the cause of all this. I am the main culprit of it all. Let me die. Let me die. Heavens! Are you blind? Why did you not bring this main culprit along? I beg you, heavens! Open your eyes. Let me die. I only beg of you to let my big brother and second brother to be revived." Jun Hui shouted, blood spraying out of his mouth and scattering all over the floor. The merciless cold winds continued to blow, and everyone was chilled to their bones. The skies were already dark and heavy snow began to fall. Dongfang Wenqing sighed and hit Jun Hui on the back of his neck, knocking him out, before signaling for someone to come and take care of him. Dongfang Wenqing knew that if Jun Hui continued like this, perhaps the bodies of the Jun family would join those who were buried under the snow. Jun Moxie felt a cold sensation on his cheeks. Raising his hand to touch his skin, his fingers met with tears he did not realize were falling. We were about to leave when Jun Hui's 8 bodyguards suddenly came in. Turned out they noticed something was odd, so they came in to check. When the battle began, they didn't last long. But it was enough to alert the guards outside. We fought our way out. While there were many troops, there were no experts amongst them. Plus we had the golden arrow token, so we had some sort of control over the army. Furthermore, that man in black had planted many spies in the base, so those outside didn't know what happened inside. Everything was in a mess, so we managed to escape easily. Xiaozhen finished the entire story. Continue to speak. My third uncle Jun Hui. My older brother, Jun Mou. My second brother Jun Mou. How did you do it? Continue to spill it. I want every single detail. Xiaozhen continued to describe all the scary scenarios of how they did it. And finally, Dongfang Wendao couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "Kill all these scums. Why are we keeping them alive? To allow them to continue to do harm upon others? Kill all of them. Kill? Of course we will kill them," Jun Moxie said coldly. "But we must wait for mother and third uncle to wake up and everyone else to arrive before we get our revenge and let the world know. If we are to kill them right now, it's too unfair to too many people." "Who else is coming?" Dongfang Wendao asked in confusion. Just as he finished asking, he understood. From the direction of Blizzard Silver City, a group of people clad in white were rushing over. In the strong blizzard winds, they were walking slowly, almost as if they were shackled by heavy weights. The person in front, though looking weak and feeble, was Han Yenyao. Behind her was an old man with white hair and bread, a middle-aged scribe, and a man with a bulky build. Behind that was Lady Han Zhanmeng and the people of the Han family of the Blizzard Silver City. Looking at the middle-aged scribe, Dongfang Wenqing's eyes narrowed. Yunbi Chen. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 735. 10 years apart and we meet again. Jun Moxie was startled and looked over quickly. Yunbi Chen was one of the 3 witnesses alongside with Han Fengshui and Li Tian, who made the Dongfang family take oath. To think that he would reappear at a crucial time like this when the Jun family was taking revenge. Mei Shuayan also looked over quickly. The object of her focus was not Yunbi Chen, but the bulky man beside him. That person jumped and raised his head, and meeting Mei Shuayan's cold gaze, his large body began to shiver and tremble, panic and guilt evident in his eyes. Amongst the Xian beasts, the Pengs suddenly released a loud cry, stirring the clouds in the sky. But before this cry could reach its climax, Mei Shuayan was enraged. Narrowing her eyes, her imposing aura rushed over and subdued all the Pengs mercilessly. With a boom, none of the Pengs dared to make a single noise. They were completely oppressed by this powerful, kingly aura to the point they trembled on the ground with their wings spread out and pressed into the snow, as if they were having spasms. What are you shouting for? Since the day he left Tian Fa, he is no longer your king. And will never be. Mei Shuayan said coldly, facing the Pengs. Today, he is just a complete traitor. Even if we have the same enemy and our paths cross, we will be enemies. What are you cheering for? Big boss. You. That bearded bulky man cried, running over, but he froze before all the Xian beasts, because he no longer existed in those eyes of his past comrades. Mei Shuayan continued to look into the faraway distance, as if she didn't notice there was someone before her. Long Crane had an odd expression, lowering his head. Big Bear turned his face away. Earthcracker, Monkey King, and the rest all turned away after spitting with a pooey. All these simple-minded beast kings only knew that their second brother, the Peng King, had left the Tian Fa forest, leaving the responsibilities he should have carried and betraying their ancestral teachings. That made him the ultimate traitor. He was no longer their brother. Furthermore, becoming a mount of a human as a beast king of Tian Fa. A humiliation to the entirety of Tian Fa. After listening to Mei Shuayan's words, all the beasts no longer had that excitement and joy from earlier, and their eyes filled with rage. Especially the few Peng kings who had finally cultivated a form. Looking at the king of all Pengs of the past before them, they only felt resentment, disdain, and some melancholy. Tian Fa will forever be Tian Fa. Tian Fa's high-ranked Xian beasts can befriend humans and even become good brothers, but never will become a servant of humans. If a friend is in trouble, you can render your help in the name of brotherhood. But after it is over, you are still a Xian beast of Tian Fa. This rule applies even if you are a beast king. What we of Tian Fa have always pursued is to be of equal standing to humans. Not become their slaves and be beneath them. It was we who had contributed the most to the war for seizing the heavens. To prove that Xian beasts are not weaker than humans. That we are even stronger than them. This was a saying left behind by one of the ancestors of Tian Fa from God knows how long ago. But this saying had become a golden rule for the Xian beasts that had always been suffering from discrimination. It was etched deeply in the hearts of every generation of Xian beasts. So for millions of years, from past till present, Tian Fa Xian beasts becoming a mount for humans was extremely rare. Or you could even say that there were none. But until Mei Shuayan's generation, an outlier appeared. Tian Fa's Peng King blatantly broke this distinct taboo. Not only did this Peng King leave Tian Fa on his own, he became the mount of the human greatest master Yunbi Chen. So Mei Shuayan definitely could not accept this. Such a great humiliating affair to happen in the time she was ruling Tian Fa. And when she went into closed-door practice after being hurt, Tian Fa was under the temporary charge of the Peng King. But he tossed that responsibility down and went to become a mount for a human. None of the beasts of Tian Fa could accept that when Mei Shuayan was healing behind closed doors, the Peng King left Tian Fa. The entire Tian Fa forest entered its weakest, dimmest period since getting its reputation. Many high-leveled Xian beasts met accidents during this period, and they even lost some beast kings. Tian Fa almost only had a mere reputation left. This was something that no Tian Fa Xian beasts could understand or forgive, no matter the reason. The Peng King stood trembling before this iron wall of Xian beasts, facing those comrades who had gone through life and death together. He clearly felt a great distinction, a discrimination that was indescribable. Those were brothers who were as close as his own kins, but they looked scornfully at him like they were shooting daggers. Even those 9-level peak-flying Xian beasts who had yet to cultivate a form had their feathers ruffled, glaring at him with animosity. He knew clearly that that was their battle mode. Looking at the sight before him, he knew clearly that he could longer return to this group. He could never return. Never. Peng King's face was gray, and stumbling backward. His burly body looked helpless and withered like leaves in the wind. The people from Blizzard Silver City finally came closer. The first person was Han Yen Yao, carrying 4 altars in her arms. Since she left the Sword Peak, she worked day and night to make these 4 altars and worship them. No matter if the Jun family had won or lost today's battle, she vowed to carry these 4 altars with her. If Jun family had unfortunately lost, she would hug these 4 altars and die with Jun Wuyi. If the Jun family emerged victorious, then she would offer the Xiao family's blood to these 4 altars, to pay tribute to those unyielding brave souls. There were only 2 outcomes, but she made both into a single one. Father. Mother. Han Yen Meng shouted cheerfully, running over into Xue Shuangqing's hug. Xue Shuangqing hugged her youngest daughter, who she hasn't seen in a long time, crying tears of happiness. Good girl. My Menger. My precious baby. I finally see you. Xue Shuangqing hugged her daughter, carefully scrutinizing her face, trying to see if her daughter had suffered during the time she spent wandering outside. For the sake of this missing daughter, Xue Shuangqing had her heart broken, longing for her return for the past few months. Now that her daughter finally returned safely, naturally she needed to take a good look and pamper her thoroughly. But unexpectedly, this youngest daughter did not lose any weight nor turn tan, but seemed to have put on some weight. There was a healthy, rosy shade on the cheeks on her fair face, and in a turn of an eye, there was even a tinge of bashfulness that had never existed. Bashfulness? Xue Shuangqing was surprised. Just at this moment, Han Yen Meng whispered into her mother's ear. Mother. Look. That fellow is Jun Moxie. He. I've been staying in his home the past few months. This guy is really annoying. He is the nephew of Jun Wuyi, so he should be calling me aunt. But he cheated me into making a bet with him, calling me his mistress. So annoying. Xue Shuangqing looked at her daughter whining. While she might have been uttering words of unhappiness, her eyes were clearly delighted and even a little embarrassed. Her happiness that brimmed from her heart couldn't be concealed. Xue Shuangqing couldn't help sigh helplessly. The Jun family, are they really an endless pit? Do I really have to allow both my daughters into it? And this fellow is Jun Wuyi's nephew. On the other hand, Dongfang Wen Xian and Jun Wuyi were saved by Jun Moxie using his spirit energy, but they still couldn't help but cry. Jun Wuyi's face was cold again, but those 2 streaks of tears on his face showed no sign of stopping. Han Yen Yao slowly walked over carrying the altars, sorrow on her face. Her long hair flew in the blowing winds. Her lips trembled, wanting to say something, but she couldn't mutter a word. She stood watching Dongfang Wen Xie, who was suffering in her anguish. Then fell onto her knees. Sister-in-law, I have let you down. I have let all of you down. I am the one who should have died. Why am I still alive? I've implicated those who are innocent, causing those who shouldn't have died to die. I'm the main cause of all this evil, but I'm still living freely in this world. I'm the one who should die. Dongfang Wen Xie sighed, and suppressing her whimpers, she wiped her tears away and said, Younger sister, get up quickly, how can this be your fault? Were you not a victim as well? You have suffered, all these years. Dongfang Wen Xie's voice was trembling, and just as she had finished her sentence, both of them hugged each other tightly and started to wail loudly. After a long while, under the coaxing of others, did they finally let go of each other. Han Yanyao was pulled up by Dongfang Wen Xie. They stood both side by side. Jun Wuyi's eyes had never left Han Yanyao since her arrival, and at this instance, their eyes finally met. It was such a brief contact, but they quickly looked elsewhere. Tears welled up in their eyes. It was in that brief contact that they felt each other's sorrow and suffering, and that unexplainable, heavy sense of guilt. At that instant, both their hearts began to ache like it was going to burst and tear. 10 whole years of separation. 10 whole years of bone-cutting yearning. 10 entire years were enough to chance the seas. And what less of people? This couple that was deeply in love finally met again after thousands of dangerous encounters and torment. They finally reached this moment where they were reunited. But they didn't even dare to look each other in the eye. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 736. Fresh blood of the enemy to worship the loyal souls. Because the other party had so much sorrow, they couldn't bear to look. And they were more fearful that if they took another glance, had their gazes met again, it would intertwine quickly, tightly, and never be separated again. Jun Wuyi walked forward, but did his best to not look at Han Yanyao. But Han Yanyao's eyes were glued to his face, unblinking, crystal-like tears slowly welling up in her eyes. Jun Wuyi reached out his shaky hands, retrieving the 4 altars into his hands. His entire body trembled as if he were experiencing a spasm, and hugging the altars, he suddenly pressed them onto his face. Big brother, second brother, my 2 nephews, the bloody vengeance of the Jun family, today, we finally get our revenge. He choked out, and rubbing his face against those altars, he felt like he had returned to back when he was just a child. That warm, cozy feeling of being carried in the arms of his brothers. Suddenly, the snowy ground began to move silently, and an offering table emerged. It was Jun Moxie utilizing his Xian skills, using the power of earth to create an offering table. He placed all the 4 altars neatly on it. Let all those from the Xiao family kneel here. Worshipping honorable spirits. Kowtow 9 times. Jun Moxie commanded harshly. In an instant, all those in the Dongfang family set out, each person grabbing a Xiao family member by their heads, harshly pressing their heads down and making them kowtow. Some people struggled angrily, but were slapped harshly, their teeth and blood flying out, and were still pressed down. Every single one of them kowtowed at least 9 times. Xiao Xingyun, you are the eldest elder of the Xiao family, and the first person of the family. You have committed heinous acts, committed wicked crimes, and killed heroes. Your sins are unforgivable. You need to know that the entire Xiao family is ruined due to you, and they will all die without descendants because of you and perish from the world. Today, I will let you watch all the descendants of the Xiao family die before your eyes, every single one of them never to make a comeback forever. Jun Moxie glared at him, and raising his hand, he commanded, "Behead every single member of the Xiao family at the altar table. Leave the bastard Xiao Xingyun last. I want to drown him using the blood of his family." "Hold it!" Yun Bichen shouted. Turning to Jun Moxie, he said, "Young Third Master Jun, while the Xiao family and Jun family have a feud, now that Xiao family is completely incapable of anything with no power to put up any resistance, you can just kill them swiftly. Why must you use such a cruel method of taking their lives?" Yun Bichen. "Ha ha ha. I have been searching for you for a long time." Jun Moxie chuckled. "The head of the mysterious 8 great masters. Yun Bichen. Ha ha ha. You came out of the mountain on behalf of the Xiao family to witness the Dongfang family make that oath. Now, the oath has been broken. Did you witness it as well?" Yun Bichen took a deep breath and said, "Yes. The collapse of the snow-covered sword peak and the driving out of all Xian beasts from Tian Fa. I have witnessed it. Naturally the Dongfang family can return. But if they are to continue killing brazenly since the oath is broken, you still have objections? Do you have the right to speak here?" Jun Moxie looked at him coldly, cutting him off. "It is not that I have objections, but I only hope that the Jun family can be merciful. I am not trying to stop the Jun family from getting revenge. I only hope that you can let them die swiftly." Yun Bichen sighed and continued. "Everyone has parents. Why do you ? If you have no intentions to stop the Jun family getting their revenge, then all is good." Yun Bichen. "When you witnessed the failure of Jun family getting their revenge back then and forced the Dongfang family to make that impossible oath, don't think you can sit yourself out of this. You will also have to answer to us and give us a reason. So what right do you have to play the good guy in front of me?" Jun Moxie laughed sinisterly. "The only thing you can do now is to be a witness. Witness the Jun family getting their revenge successfully. Witness it from beginning to end." Pausing a while, he added in a low voice, "Spend your whole life playing the good person and you will be bullied, humiliated, and trampled upon for your entire life. If you cannot return a tooth for a tooth, everyone will try to sit on your heads. Only by using the most vicious, most cruel methods will make people remember you in fear. I want the world to know that this person is not to be messed with. If you have offended him, even if you are dead, you will still need to pay a great price." Jun Moxie laughed. "No wonder so many people in this world are willing to be ruffians. Be the bad guys. Because there is a great advantage here: if you are evil enough, no one dares to offend you." Yun Bichen. "Don't you think that follows logic?" Yun Bichen raised his brows and pondered for a long time before letting out a sigh. "In this world, if a good person makes a mistake, everyone will criticize him. Even those who are not involved will try to get involved. Why? Because everyone knows that that person is a good person. Even if you scold him and hit him, he will not do anything. He won't fight back, because if he fights back, then he is no longer a good person and will be subjected to everyone's condemnation and revilement. On the other hand, even if a bad person commits the gravest act, everyone will only look on, but will not intervene, because they are waiting for justice to punish him. If someone tries to do it, there will be a good-hearted person reminding them, this person is a baddie. He dares to commit all sorts of offense. You cannot afford to offend him, because if you do, your family will be implicated. He is capable of doing so. In any case, there's the judiciary. Why would you bother with this? And as such, This person who wanted to intervene will be dissuaded thanks to the words of that good-hearted person. And just like this, as long as the judiciary doesn't arrive, or this baddie can escape from the eyes of justice, then he can lead a more carefree life than anyone else. Jun Moxie said all this in a sarcastic manner, then laughed loudly. So I don't want to be a good person. And I won't be so extravagant to use kindness to treat resentment. I will use blood to repay blood. I'd rather have everyone in the world fear me than to have them respect me. This is me, Jun Moxie. Finishing this line, he shouted, "Start the execution," offering tribute to the brave spirits. Whoever who tries to make another remark, kill them instantly. I don't care who it is. Just kill them. On his command, blood flew everywhere. Beheaded heads were placed on the offering table. This was definitely a gruesome scene, but to the Jun family and the Dongfang family, it was a pleasing view. They were finally getting revenge. After Xiao Xingyun was drowned in the blood, all members of the Jun family kneeled onto the ground and kowtowed thrice to the altars of Jun Wuhui and the rest. Heavy snow flew and the wind howled across the skies. Dongfang Wen Xian and Jun Wuyi knelt. Their eyes were fixated on the four altars, and they did not move for a long time. Wu Hui. My husband. Marrying you, I had no regrets in my life. You know? Although we were ill-fated and could only be husband and wife for 10 years. But those 10 years are eternal to me. It was the most precious, happy 10 years in my entire life. 16 years and 8 months. Wu Hui. I hope you can be more patient. Once I have finished arranging for Moxie and watch him establish his own family, I will join you. Be husband and wife again in our next life. Dongfang Wen Xian looked at Jun Wuhui's altar dazedly, speaking in her heart. That day, to console me, he told me perhaps he could revive you all. And I pretended to have believed him. But I know that that is impossible. A person dying is the same as a flame going out. How could he be revived? Even if Moxie has brilliant and magical abilities to revive you. But so many comrades had gone with you. How could you bear to leave them behind? If you had really revived, you would not accept it. But the failure of a mother I am had to let Moxie believe that I believed him. That day when I regained consciousness, I knew, if I had left like that, our child, he will break down. Moxie, our son, he has suffered. Under that selfish, untamable exterior hides a fragile heart. Even Mou and Mo Cho were under our care and protection until they were 16. Only Moxie. He was only 6 years old when he lost his father, mother, his father passing on and his mother going into a deep sleep. We really owe our children too much. I have to see Moxie establish his family. See his offsprings grow up before I can rest assured to go and join you below, because I must take good care of our last son. Mou, Mo Cho. Mother misses the both of you too. I really do. Mo Cho has been cheeky from young. Mou, you have to take good care of your brother and stop him from getting into trouble. Be filial to your father and uncle. And every year, spring, summer, autumn, winter, mother will make new clothes for you. Cook your favorite dishes and send them over to you. If you miss mother, do come into my dreams and reunite with me there. Let mother have a good look at you both. Mother really wishes to see you guys being playful again. Both of you will always be my sons in my heart. Those two be *TT Nike brats. If there is a next life, I will still want to be your mother and make up to you all that you have lost in this life. Dongfang Wen Xian continued kneeling quietly, speaking quietly in her heart with her departed husband and sons. Heavy snow descended on her body, accumulating into a thin layer of white. But she did not move an inch, allowing that pensive grief to pass through the gates of hell, conveying all her longing and emotions to her husband and sons who were sleeping eternally. Jun Xie knelt straight, like a statue, and beside him was Han Yanyao. Even though this knot had been undone, he still did not know how to face it. Looking at his widowed sister-in-law and the altars of 2 generations of Jun family, his heart felt like it was being ripped apart mercilessly. What should I do? What exactly should I do? Heavens! Please tell me. What should I do? Han Yanyao, who was kneeling beside him, was currently experiencing the same emotion. The two of them were at a loss for what to do. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 737. Hongjun Pagoda's Desire. After a long time, Dongfang Wen Xie got up slowly. Wiping away the tears on her face, she said smiling, "Everyone, get up. I thank everyone on behalf of my husband, second uncle, and sons. It's cold and chilly, so be careful not to catch a cold. Wu Yi, lead everyone to get up. We've come to achieve 2 things. Our revenge has been completed, so now it is time to see to your wedding with sister-in-law. You can go and inform Master Han. Bring Yanya back to hold that much-delayed wedding ceremony at the Jun family. From now on, both of you must love and care for each other, taking care of your children and growing old together. This is what father-in-law and I, as well as Wu Hui, Wu Meng would hope to see." Jun Xie jumped, raising his head quickly. "Sister-in-law. This is my order and I represent the Jun family right now, which also represents your big brother. Do you have any objections? Do you dare to disobey?" Dongfang Wen Xie did not give him the chance to speak, continuing. "Your big brother's greatest wish in his life was to watch you grow up into a splendid hero, establish your own family, and be happy. Did you wish to not let his soul rest in peace even in heaven?" Jun Xie was stunned. He remained stunned for a while, before harshly kowtowing to the floor. He whimpered, "Big brother," and suddenly started crying sorrowfully on the floor again. Han Yanyao crawled forward on her knees and hugged Dongfang Wen Xie's legs, crying loudly, "Sister-in-law. Thank you. Thank you. I'm unworthy." Dongfang Wen Xie smiled tenderly and helped her up, wiping her tears away gently, as she chided, "Silly girl. Since you already call me sister-in-law, why do you still need to thank me? Furthermore, it was your big brother's greatest wish to let the 2 of you be happy together. Which part of you is unworthy? As long as you don't mind this ignorant third brother of mine." Han Yanyao continued to shed tears and was unable to speak from all her emotions, so she kept nodding her head. Accepting Dongfang Wen Xie's hug, she began to cry loudly. At this moment, Jun Moxie was already standing in front of Han Zhanmeng. And beside Master Han was the previous Lord of Blizzard's Silver City, Han Fengshui, as well as Xue Shangqin and Yunbi Chen. Mei Shui Yan drifted over and stood behind Jun Moxie. The Han family is not completely free from the responsibility of the Xiao family's evil doings. The matter with the Dongfang family was completed with the aid of the 3 great masters, which was extremely unfair. So, as I had mentioned previously, for the sake of third uncle and third aunt, we are unwilling to become enemies with Blizzard Silver City. But I still demand an elucidation. I wonder if Master Han has carefully considered how he will answer to us. If you could return us this justice?" Jun Moxie said straightforwardly. Blizzard Silver City. Haha. What Blizzard Silver City is there now? Han Fengshue's face was full of sorrow and despair, looking at the rubbles of what was left of Blizzard Silver City. He zoned out for a while before turning back to look at Jun Moxie. Since Han Zhanmeng returned that day, he conveyed Third Young Master Jun's request to me. I thought for very long, and the Han family does indeed owe the Jun family justice. So naturally we have to give you an answer. Han Fengshue's white beard flew in the wind, but his voice was heavy. Blizzard Silver City has been passed on for generations. But in this generation, Zhanmeng has no sons and only 2 daughters. So it can be said that we have no descendants. But Blizzard Silver City cannot perish like this. So I've decided, after Yan Yao and Jun Wuyi got married, their offspring shall be the ones to continue Blizzard Silver City. That way, Blizzard Silver City has someone to inherit it, and we will also be answering to the Jun family. Will you be satisfied with this arrangement? Han Fengshue had a tragic expression as he said this. No matter how powerful the Jun family was or how tyrannical they were, Blizzard Silver City will always have Han as their surname. This was a fact that no one could snatch away by force. No matter how pathetic the city was now, it would still be their own family establishment. But by allowing Jun Wuyi's son to inherit it, it meant that they were acceding to Blizzard Silver becoming part of the Jun family instead. That means the entire Blizzard Silver City was handed over to the Jun family on a silver platter. Such a grand and heavy way to provide an answer was beyond Jun Moxie's expectations. Jun Moxie had not expected anything like this. And the matter involves Jun Wuyi. As a junior, no matter how powerful, he could not make the decision impulsively. So he quickly went to discuss with Dongfang Wen Xian and the rest. Upon hearing this, Dongfang Wen Xian quickly exchanged a couple of opinions with Jun Wuyi before making a final decision. Old Master Han is so righteous. The Jun family is extremely grateful and honored. I had discussed with third brother earlier, and we've decided to accept your well wishes. After Wu Yi and Yan Yao are married, if they have one son, he shall take on Jun as his surname and inherit Blizzard Silver City. But if there are 2 sons, the second son shall take Han as his surname and inherit Blizzard Silver City. I wonder what old Master Han thinks of this arrangement. Dongfang Wen Xian smiled and said. Han Fengshue opened his eyes in surprise and looked at Dongfang Wen Xian with joy. Is it for real? He was a hero of his time, but his greatest regret not having any male grandson who could inherit Blizzard Silver City. In the heart of this old man, as precious as his granddaughter was, she would eventually have to be married off and become part of someone else's family. Even handing the inheritance of Blizzard Silver City to the Jun family was an act of indignance. But this ensured the future of Blizzard Silver City. After all, after Han Yan Yao married Jun Wuyi, half of the blood in their child would still be of the Han family. He couldn't help but feel elated upon hearing this suggestion of Dongfang Wen Xian. With his Xian cultivation, he shouldn't be so agitated. Yet hearing the good news of having a descendant was enough to make him lose his composure. The older a person gets, the more descendants he hoped to have. This might be an illness that all the old people in the world have. Of course it is true. We are already related by marriage. And either way it is Wu Yi and Yan Yao's child. Does the surname Jun or Han even matter? How big a difference could it make? Dongfang Wen Xian said, wearing a smile. Dongfang Wen Xian was being too generous in the way she had said this. Unless you married into your wife's family, the child always followed the father's surname. There was no logic of following the mother's surname, regardless of how powerful and influential the mother's family background was. Making a decision was giving the Han family a lot of face. Besides, it was to make Han Yenyao feel slightly better, and this would help to further resolve the grudge between the two families. Han Fengxue was pleasantly surprised. Not bad. Not bad, he said, rubbing his hands, clearly a little too excited. He coaxed. Yaoer, today you get what you have always wished for. You have to work hard and hurry up to give me a few great-grandsons. Ha 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 ha. Everyone burst into laughter and Han Yenyao turned red instantly. She lowered her head in embarrassment. In front of so many people. How could this grandfather not have some sense of privacy when he speaks? She stomped her feet into the snow and refused to raise her head again. Just as she was feeling angry and embarrassed, she felt a hesitant, but big, warm hand holding on hers. Han Yenyao snuck a glance at Jun Xie, who was trying to hold his composure standing beside her. She secretly intertwined her trembling fingers with his, holding tightly, never letting go. Jun Xie jumped. A familiar, yet foreign warmth that had never existed in 10 whole years rushing in and filling up his heart. Seeing that everything had finally come to an end, Jun Moxie wanted to rush back to Xiang. Just as he was about to speak, his entire body shook. Jun Moxie felt a wave of giddiness. The Hongjun Pagoda, which had gone to sleep, suddenly began to turn again with a om sound at an incredible speed. It seemed to be looking forward to something. There was another strong attractive force that pulled his body toward Han Fengxue. If Jun Moxie tried to go the other way, he would instantly be hit by a massive headache. What was happening? Hongjun Pagoda was forcefully tugging his body over there, leaving no room for negotiation. A self-initiated act like this by the Hongjun Pagoda had never happened before. The feck. Didn't you overeat? Why would you come out to cause trouble now? This is a crucial time. Time is of essence here. Brother Hong. I have something urgent that I need to see to back at Xiang. The situation there is very critical. Can't you just sleep peacefully? Why must you pull me along like this? Jun Moxie pleaded in his heart. But that Hongjun Pagoda didn't seem bothered and continued to tug him over stubbornly. God dang it. Didn't you overeat? Just be good and digest it. Eat, drink and sleep. Isn't that the best? Why must you restrict me? The situation at Xiang is extremely urgent and critical. If I am a step too late, people will die. Jun Moxie was angered already. Hongjun Pagoda turned even more rapidly, and that odd attraction force became stronger and stronger. Jun Moxie resisted it, standing rooted to the ground so he could go back to Xiang immediately. But the more he resisted, the stronger the force, to the point he started to turn pale. Jun Moxie sighed in resignation and walked closer to Han Fengxue. Since we need to go near, then let's go as near as possible. So Jun Moxie got so near that he and Han Fengxue were standing almost cheek to cheek. Hongjun Pagoda became even more excited, and an emotion of urgent desire was reflected in Jun Moxie's heart. It was the same feeling the soul-replenishing jade gave off. And an unknown, powerful energy. Jun Moxie could distinctly feel it. Since this aura was a little weak from Han Fengxue, it could be felt that it was not one that he was naturally equipped with. Such a unique aura was the result of staying in a place full of soul-replenishing jade for a long time. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 738. Talk about marriage. The place where Han Fengxue had stayed in for a long time seemed to have a lot of something that seemed like the soul-replenishing jade. And it was much bigger and more than that few pieces of soul-replenishing jade the Xiao family had combined together. After wiping out the entire Xiao family, Jun Moxie had already secretly retrieved the soul-replenishing jade from Xiao Xingyun's possession. At this moment, not only was the Hongjun Pagoda reacting, but even the soul-replenishing jade in Jun Moxie's possession began to turn warm for no reason. Han Fengshui stumbled back in shock, looking at this young fellow who appeared in his face suddenly in surprise. Upon seeing a greedy, somewhat lecherous look upon the lad's face, he frowned and said warily, "What do you want? Doesn't this fellow already have a few soulmates? Why is he looking at me like this? I may not look exactly old, but I'm a solid elderly from head to toe. What are his intentions?" "I did not have any intentions. I was merely admiring the superb cultivation that old Master Han has." Jun Moxie smiled. Suffering the Hongjun Pagoda's blow of waves in his head, using all his power to prevent himself from losing self-control. He was very surprised. What sort of magical object would make a heavenly treasure like the Hongjun Pagoda so thirsty with desire? This was too peculiar. Was there some other mysterious secret in this big snowy mountains? Suddenly, a memory from the day he infiltrated the underground of Blizzard Silver City flashed across his mind. The area where he had encountered resistance when he tried to pass through it, could it be there? Jun Moxie unconsciously started to grin evilly, stroking his chin. "What's there to admire? You are at a higher cultivation level than me currently. Are you praising me or insulting me?" Han Fengshui was even more wary now. Does this fellow know how to talk? Does anyone even praise others the way you do? The more he looked, the more he felt like this fellow was harboring some sort of ill intent. Did Blizzard Silver City disappear? Isn't it still there? Huh. Isn't it easy to just rebuild it? Jun Moxie laughed, rubbing his chin. Han Fengshui pretended that he did not hurt a single thing, taking it as if this fellow had just released a fart. Even if it's a fart, you could still hear the sound and smell its scent. But this guy's words are just pure sarcasm. It had taken 4 generations to develop to the scale Blizzard Silver City was at. How could rebuilding it be something easy? This fellow actually said it would be easy. Perhaps it's more easy for you to choke on your own sarcasm. Han Fengshui was extremely displeased. If not for the sake that they had just improved relationships with the Jun family, making it inconvenient to take actions, he really wanted to discipline this person on the spot. Although it looks like I can't win him. But this fellow looks like he perhaps might not dare to fight back. Actually, an incident like Blizzard Silver City collapsing is truly the will of the heavens. Just as the saying goes, the heavens are watching the acts of men. An incident of such a massive magnitude, if the heavens are toying with us, which human being can do so? Jun Moxie made another remark that had caused the old Master Han's face to turn even darker. The old man was fuming, and lowering his voice, he said, "Heaven's will? What bullshit. Although I do not know what sort of method you used to cause the sword peak to collapse. If the sword peak had not collapsed, would the entire Blizzard Silver City be implicated and turned into a ruined city? Obviously you were the main culprit behind all this. But you dare to talk to me about heaven's will? What heaven's toying? Acting innocent like this? Perhaps I should pay a visit to the Jun family and demand an explanation from your grandpa. Didn't you drive us crazy when you demanded an explanation from the Han family? Now that we are all in-laws, I'll go and find your grandpa. I may not be able to discipline you, but there must be someone else who can." "Do simmer down, old Master Han. I had no ill intentions. Listen me out. You'll understand." Jun Moxie put on an expression of peddler and said enticingly, "Look. The entire Blizzard Silver City has always been under both the Han and Xiao family. But the Xiao family heartlessly rebelled. Although they have been wiped out, Blizzard Silver City is filled with their remnants. Probably heaven was annoyed. So he simply unleashed an earthquake, allowing the Blizzard Silver City, which was full of the heinous aura of the Xiao family, to collapse. Which is a good thing. For new things cannot come if the old ones don't go. When I put it this way, you'll definitely understand, right?" Han Fengshui let out a heavy sigh of contempt and looked away while crossing his arms, completely pretending that Jun Moxie was just air and does not exist. Otherwise, Han Fengshui was sure that he would be driven to his death by this youth. Understand? What the feck did I understand? What sort of bullshit is this? What filled with the heinous aura of the Xiao family? Does Blizzard Silver City only have the aura of the Xiao family? It definitely wasn't lacking in the aura of the Han family. Going by your logic, now that the entire Xiao family has perished and every one of them are dead, aren't you just cursing the entire Han family to perish as well? I'm a magnanimous person. I can't be bothered to be angry with you. As expected, your mouth is incapable of saying anything decent. On the other hand, Xue Shuangqing, Dongfang Wen Xian, and Jun Wuyi had come to an agreement. The more Xue Shuangqing looked at Jun Wuyi, the more pleased and satisfied she felt. But her stare had managed to make this blood general turn entirely red in the face from embarrassment. The more the mother-in-law looked at her son-in-law, the more interested she became. Now that all the matters had been resolved, Xue Shuangqing's mood returned to a pleasant state. Who cares if the Blizzard Silver City is gone? It's not like it can't be rebuilt. The most important thing is, the Xiao family no longer exists. That is the most delightful matter. So of course it is time to consider about her daughter's happiness. Xue Shuangqing secretly nudged Han Zhanmeng's arm and whispered, "No wonder Yaoer fancied him. This Jun Wuyi is really so much better than that Xiao Han. Be it in terms of appearance or character, manners, and demeanor. He is much better than Xiao Han by many folds. And his Xian skills are not ordinary, but I am unable to determine its depths. Truly a rare find between heaven and earth." Han Zhanmeng nodded silently. From the look in his eyes, it was clear that he was very satisfied. He had finally rounded up one of his biggest worries. There were no longer any obstacle in his eldest daughter's marriage, and she could finally get what she wanted. Even the traitorous Xiao family had been eradicated. Although Blizzard Silver City had collapsed along with the Xiao family, but all in all, it was still a good thing. At least they did not have to worry about the past. And this son-in-law looked very reliable. This Lady Jun. Although Xue Shuangqing was an elder to Dongfang Wen Xian in terms of seniority, but Jun Wuyi and Han Yanyao had yet to wed, so she was a little embarrassed to address her directly as sister-in-law. What more was that they were not far apart in terms of their age, and her youngest daughter seemed to be interested in her son. This was too complicated to be put into words. So Xue Shuangqing didn't know what form of address should she use and only felt as if her brain was tied up into a knot. After racking her brains for a long time, she decided to address her as Lady Jun. "What can I do for Lady Han?" Dongfang Wen Xian also felt the same conflict over what to address Xue Shuangqing as, so she followed the same way Xue Shuangqing had addressed her. "I have a matter." Xue Shuangqing looked at her youngest daughter and let out a sigh of resignation. Before continuing, "There's a matter that I'm afraid I need Lady Jun to help make a decision." Looking at her expression, Dongfang Wen Xian more or less could guess what it was about. "Do speak, Lady Han." Xue Shuangqing first sighed before speaking. Actually, these are just small matters regarding the children. But they've really given me an headache all these years due to the poor decision made by us parents. Yaoer had suffered for 10 whole years. I have also finally became more clear-minded. And I feel like I should leave the happiness of my daughters to themselves. As parents, we are really powerless. As long as they feel blissful. That is greater than anything. Better than worrying ceaselessly day and night but remaining unable to do anything about it. We might as well let go and let it be done according to their wishes. Yes. One will never understand the woe of being a parent until they've become one themselves. These children have really cost us much effort. Donghua Xie nodded in agreement, letting out a deep sigh before continuing with much satisfaction. Luckily, our Xie has always been an honest boy. He was very obedient and well-behaved from young, always obeying what he was told, saving me a lot of worry. Suddenly Jun Xie, who has beside let out a pft. He turned away quickly with an odd expression, as if he had suffered an internal injury from suppressing himself. What? Honest? Well-behaved? Obedient? Save you from worrying? It's not that these words cannot be said. But, how could such beautiful words be used to describe a brat like Jun Moxie? If you had known what sort of nonsense your son has been doing all these years, I can promise that your face will turn green from anger. I really must pity all the parents in the world, for the sake of praising their own child. They are not afraid to say anything. Even a gentle and gracious woman like sister-in-law knows how to talk blindly now. This is really not easy. Isn't that the case? As long as the children are obedient, it'll be much easier for us parents. I'm really envious of you, to have such a capable son who is so obedient. Xue Shuangqing was lying when she had made this sentence. Side-eyeing Jun Moxie, who behaved as if he was the top of the world and carried an air of a ruffian and villainy, no matter how she looked. She couldn't see where the honest, obedient, well-behaved son Donghua Xie spoke of was. It seems more like this fellow carries an air of untamable from head to toe, whatever. Which mother wouldn't pick better things to say when praising her son? Today, Yaoer finally got her wish and has found a reliable partner for the rest of her life. The two of us have finally put down a big worry of ours. Xue Shuangqing continued haltingly. But this youngest daughter of mine gives me a greater headache. Menger is sharp and intelligent, well-behaved, adored by everyone, and beautiful like a fairy. Why would she give you an headache? Donghua Xie pretended to look surprised. My son is now a precious treasure. If your daughter wants a share of it, you'll have to be the one to come over to ask. Either way, I won't be the one to initiate it. Donghua Xie was extremely firm. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 739. Difficult to step even an inch away. We already have 3 at home. If you're not proactive enough, it's your loss. We're not in a rush. When children grow up, they will always look for someone they fancy. Lady June, that son of yours, Xue Shuangqing coughed awkwardly, has also given you trouble in this area, hasn't he? Also, when they grow up, they'll have to marry. This son of mine has always saved me from worrying from he was young. Even now, he still does. Especially when it comes to affairs concerning marriage. He would handle them on his own. I am more worried that it might be getting too much. The one beside Moxie, Tian Fa's venerable Mei, is my first daughter-in-law. This one beside me, Qing Han, is also my daughter-in-law. They've already consummated. We still have Dugu family's daughter, Dugu Xiao Yi back at home. Huh. This son of mine. He is not too shabby in terms of his looks and he is extremely honest. He don't know how to not be too showy. So he couldn't help but attract the attention of ladies. These 3 girls are the official wives that I am aware of. But I'm not too sure if he has any more. I've already reprimanded him numerous times on this matter. Always makes my chest hurt from anger. Dongfang Wen Xian may sound as if she were begrudging, but an extremely proud expression sat upon her face. Anyone could tell that this mother was showing off. Who couldn't tell from her honored tone? Of course a mother would feel proud that her son was so charismatic. Or not, was she supposed to look forward to no one to asking about her son? On the side, Jun Wu-yi has clearly reached the borders of breaking down anytime. Sister-in-law is too amazing. Although what you said is not too far from the truth. But considering what sort of reputation Mo Xie had back in Tian Xiang, this has gone too far off. Xue Shuangqing felt the corner of her mouth twitch. Are you lamenting about your son? Why does it sound like you are so proud of it? Taking a look at Mei Shuyan and Qing Han. They both don't seem lesser than my daughter in any way, and there is one more at home, and the possibility that there may be more than these 3? What should she do? There were already 3. And their statuses were not low. Just take Venerable Mei, for example. She alone was someone Blizzard's Silver City could not touch. Did she really have to marry her daughter to become his concubine? That was not acceptable. Just as Xue Shangqing was deep in her thoughts, Dongfang Wen Xian continued. So with so many daughter-in-laws, it's really troubling because it's a matter concerning who is the official first wife. Everyone comes from reputable families and they also hold high statuses. Especially Mei Yan, who is an overlord of a generation. Regardless, there's no logic for making any one of them the mistress. Yes, that's very true. Xue Shuangqing agreed immediately. I've been so vexed that some hair has turned gray. But I finally thought of a solution. Dongfang Wen Xian lowered her voice mysteriously. That is, to not make any difference in terms of their status or position. Everyone shall all be sisters in terms of their age. Isn't that great? Like this, the distinction is already made and everyone becomes closer. So everything else becomes easier to settle. There would be no problem even if there are more wives. Furthermore, I'm not trying to praise myself here, but I am not like one of those cynical mother-in-laws. I will always find a way to please them, right? As parents, it's really tiring for us. Even if the least worrisome child has something that makes you worry. But what would that little beast Mo Xie even know of the woes of being a mother? Dongfang Wen Xian had lowered her voice. So Xue Shuangqing also followed suit and hushed her voice. It seemed like if this was the case, then it shouldn't really matter. Furthermore, the Jun family was now a super family. And clearly Yan Meng had deep-rooted feelings for Jun Mo Xie. Why would she become the villain here? Besides, if it ended up like Han Yao Yao, it would just be a dead loss. Coughing to clear her throat, she spoke. Lady Jun, what do you think of my younger daughter? Xue Shuangqing finally went straight to the point after going in circles. Is she worthy of your son? Naturally I do adore Menger. But if Yaoer is to marry Wu Yi is Mo Xie's blood uncle, the seniority will be all messed up. Dongfang Wen Xian pretended to be shocked. What problem can seniority pose? The pugilistic world is full of messed up seniorities. Xue Shuangqing laughed nervously. If that's the case, then you can leave this matter to me. We have to let them have their wishes. I'm really too soft-hearted. I cannot bear to see the children suffer. Dongfang when Xian was confident. They're already calling each other little wife. Mistress, already. How could she have misunderstood? Furthermore, the more daughter-in-laws, the more grandchildren. It would be best if each of them could give birth to 10 or more. Taking a sideway glance at Han Yenmeng, Dongfang when Xian thought that the girl seemed to have a body that was likely to conceive a son. That'll be ideal. Shuangqing was elated. You can rest assured when Menger comes to my place. Huh. In-law. I'm pretty good at taking care of children. Dongfang when Xian said warmly, directly addressing Shuangqing as in-law already. Jun Wuyi completely broke down. Sister-in-law. You dare say you are good at taking care of children? Shuangqing, on the other hand, nodded her head continuously, replying more passionately and addressing the other party as in-law as well. I marry the older sister. My nephew marries the younger sister, so do I call Moxie brother-in-law? Or should he call me brother-in-law? We will both have to address Shuangqing as mother-in-law, but if we have children. Third Master Jun felt like his brain was not enough to process all of this. He should just faint. Dongfang when Xian was already plotting in her head. If she wanted to accomplish this matter, there shouldn't be any issue with Jun Moxie and Dugu Xiaoyi as well. She was still clueless about everything and can be easily pacified with a few pieces of sweets. The most important matter to settle was Guan Qinghan and Mei Shuiyan. Those two girls were very obedient toward this mother-in-law and had a pretty good relationship with little Menger. And there's also Jun Wuyi and Han Yenyao. It shouldn't be too big of a problem. Hee. Dongfang when Xian relaxed after sorting out these matters in her heart, even fantasizing about how to get a few more grandsons. Thus, with no one else's knowledge, these two mothers had made such a big decision. And it was a big decision that concerned the happiness of both parties. Someone clearly was still out of the loop, completely unaware that the little wife he had made for himself from a prank had now become reality. Jun Moxie was currently talking to Han Fengshui in an extremely friendly manner, clearly trying to get chummy much like the stickiness of a chewing gum. This left Han Fengshui at a loss as to what to do. This fellow was demanding justice a moment ago, but in a blink of an eye, he went through a complete change in attitude. Could this fellow really have some sort of ill intentions? Or that sort of preference? Even if he was like that, there were so many muscular men around, it makes no sense to come for an old man like me even though I'm still young at heart, handsome, and gracious. But little did he know, the Jun Moxie, who was harboring ill intentions, was even more frustrated. You think I wanted this? Who would want to act chummy and talk nonsense with an old man like you? I'm in a hurry to return to Tian Xiang, but that thing in my head doesn't allow me to. So the young and the old continued their stiff conversation. Jun Moxie kept trying to look for conversations, and Han Fengshui tried his best to counter, but he was truly at a loss as to what to do. Mei Shuiyan was facing two other people, Yunbi Chen and Peng Qing. Although Yunbi Chen had used some underhanded methods in that incident back then, it was a fact that both of them were a good match in personality. Yunbi Chen roamed the world at his own pace, and the Peng Qing had a personality with no attachments. Otherwise, the Peng Qing wouldn't have been tricked so easily, and even remained so obedient after knowing that he was tricked. Those two had very indifferent characters, aloof and detached about the world, and were heading toward a lifestyle of a hermit not shackled by anything. As such, they instantly matched and became partners, roaming the world. With regards to their reappearance, Mei Shuiyan only said one thing. The Peng Qing betraying Tian Fa was unforgivable. I have no intentions to do anything to you both, But the ancestral decree of Tian Fa cannot be violated. Whether you are a hero or a coward shall be determined in the war for seizing the heavens. The two of you can do whatever you want. Become hermits or make a comeback. But the only condition is that the Pen King can use his martial skills and strength. But he is never to utilize that kingly aura that belongs to Xian beasts. If this condition was broken, he would be killed without mercy, even if he was miles away. Mei Shuayan may have sounded merciless, and even emphasized on the words, war for seizing the heavens. But did she wish to be so heartless? If the Pen King could really aid in the war for seizing the heavens, she would give him another chance. These were Mei Shuayan's intentions, although she had not clearly stated it. But she knew the Pen King understood what she had meant. Yunbi Chen and the Pen King both let out a long sigh and agreed on this condition. Then the two slowly made their way off. The Pen King wanted to go and bid farewell to the Xian beasts before leaving, but he felt intense animosity when he was approaching them. So he turned his head and left in resignation. Mei Shuayan turned around after she had resolved this matter, only to see Jun Moxie playing ruffian with Han Fengshui, who was wearing a helpless expression. She couldn't help but feel angry and amused by the sight. Walking over, she said, Moxie, things here have been resolved. She should rush back to Tian Xiang now. The situation there. Jun Moxie rolled his eyes. Lady, did you think I don't wish to go back? I want to go back more than anyone else. But the problem right now, I really can't leave. Looks like if the Hongjun Pagoda in my head doesn't get the secret from Han Fengshui's body, I'm destined to find difficulty in stepping even an inch away. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 740. Tian Xiang. The Saints testing. As unwilling as Jun Moxie was feeling on the inside, his mouth spoke otherwise. Blizzard Silver City has suffered so many great loss because of me as the perpetrator. How could I just leave like this? No matter what, I should try to help a little. Han Fengshui, who was near 100 years in age, was on the verge of suffering an internal injury from the shamelessness of Jun Moxie. He quickly shook his hand and refused. No need. There is no loss too major. Our people can do the tidying ourselves easily. But his heart was bleeding. The entire Blizzard Silver City is destroyed. We've lost almost 90% of all our valuables. And rebuilding will require another large sum of money which we don't know where to get from. Although he was sabotaging himself by refusing, as long as Jun Moxie could go away as quickly as possible, it would all be worth it. Jun Moxie rolled his eyes, then whispered into Mei Shuayan's ear. Although he didn't clearly state what was happening, it was enough for Mei Shuayan to understand that something peculiar prevented him from leaving. Mei Shuayan frowned. Since Moxie wishes to aid in the rebuilding of Blizzard Silver City, how about I bring the troops back first? After all, we cannot afford to have any delays on that side. Jun Moxie considered for a while, but he couldn't make a decision. There were 9 saints over there. Even though Mei Shuayan was a 4th-level venerable, she might not be able to make a big difference even if she headed back. Using Xian beasts to launch a brutal battle would only result in a huge loss even if they won. This was not a good decision, but the longer they remained here, the greater the danger Tian Xiang would be in. What should he do? It's a good idea if you guys return first. Jun Moxie gritted his teeth, eyes turning a little red. Shuayan, you must be extremely careful going back. If anything already happened to Tian Xiang, bring the army back to Tian Fa Forest immediately. Don't take any actions on your own. Do not seek revenge. Wait for me to return first before we decide anything. You only need to send the Crane King over to inform me. If nothing has happened, that would be the best. Just pretend to comply and drag as much time as you can. If they are too demanding, then tell them that my master has set a date to meet them for a battle to determine victory and defeat next month. We have to hold them back no matter what. Remember, you must wait for me to go back. Before that, do not act on your own. Mei Shuayan agreed seriously. Don't worry, we will not hastily go against 9 saints before our own saints from Tian Fa are out. Even beast kings stand no chance against a saint. I am clear of the advantages and disadvantages. After saying this, Mei Shuayan whistled. All the Xian beast got into formation neatly. Jun Wu Yi, Dongfang San Jian, Sikongan Yi, and the rest also got ready to head back. Han Yan Yao knelt before her mother to bid her goodbye. They embraced each other. It was another inevitable separation. But this time, no matter what, Han Yan Yao was to follow back to Tian Xiang. What was unexpected was under the intentions of her mother. Han Yan Meng was to follow Dongfang Wen Xian and her sister back to Tian Xiang. Although Xue Shuangqing couldn't bear to part with her daughter, she loved her daughter dearly, so she had to make such a decision. Blizzard's Silver City was currently in ruins and required rebuilding. Han Yan Meng will only suffer were she to stay behind. Even lodging would be difficult. What more other necessities? She might as well go back to Tian Xiang. No matter what, she'd live more comfortably there. Furthermore, there was no more grudge between the two families. Even if she missed her daughter, she could go and visit anytime. Also, by leaving the younger daughter there, she could also improve her relationship with her future son-in-law. This had no disadvantages to Blizzard's Silver City. Dongfang Wen Xian knew the intentions behind Xue Shuangqing's actions. Bidding farewell, she got aboard the back of a flying Xian beast with Guan Qinghan and the rest. Mei Shuayan whistled loudly. In the heavy snow, thousands of Xian beasts took flight together, flying back to Tian Xiang. Only 2 people were left, Jun Moxie and Condor King. Jun Moxie kept Condor King behind because of his speed. His flying speed was even faster than the Crane King's. After resolving the matter here, it would save a lot of time getting back. Why are you not leaving? What are your intentions? Han Feng Shui glared angrily. He was on the verge of going berserk. Everyone has left, but this annoying fellow stayed behind. This is absolutely insufferable. Why not leave everyone behind and let this person go on his own? Why is it that everyone leaves but he remains behind? Why must he stick so awfully close to me? What kind of person is this? Jun Moxie was just as equally frustrated. You think I'm willing to stay behind and act chummy with your old ass? There's nowhere to look for pretty girls in this freezing place. And I only have a dark-looking Condor King as company. Hongjun Pagoda. Hongjun Pagoda. You really make me uncomfortable this time. Such a crucial time, You've really tossed me into the fire. Senior. I say, shouldn't we go and take a look to see how much of Blizzard's Silver City is destroyed? If there is anything we can still use. Jun Moxie suggested eagerly. Han Feng Shui flew away angrily, feeling that if he looked at this fellow for another moment, he would be driven him nuts. Xue Shuangqing was entertaining Jun Moxie extremely intimately, walking along slowly. Her behavior made Han Zhanmeng a little jealous, feeling unhappy with his wife. When this fellow met me that day, he was almost shouting at me, "But you're treating him so well right now." If other people were unaware, seeing how gentle and considerate you are of him, They might mistake him for your son. Hongjun Meng was unaware that his wife was working on building a good relationship with her future son-in-law. The more she looked at him, the more pleased she felt. She felt even more pleased with Jun Moxie than her other son-in-law, Jun Wu. A handsome appearance aside, in the millions of years of the Xian continent, countless of prodigies have appeared. But was there one who was able to accomplish as many groundbreaking achievements as my son-in-law? At the mere age of 18? No wonder his mother was so proud. How could anyone pass on a son-in-law as excellent as this? So the more Shuang looked, the more she admired him. Even that heretical aura around him was accepted by her as a cool and stylish personality. Young Master Jun was also having a headache. Not sure of how to address this gorgeous madam, who was the mother-in-law of his third uncle. What should he address her as? Grandmother-in-law? But this issue was resolved by Shuang. Moxie, your mother and I are now extremely close friends. You can just address me as Aunt. We are all part of the pugilistic world. Why bother so much? This sentence left Jun Moxie dumbfounded. What? Even if we are part of the pugilistic world, should it be so reckless? If I address you as such, then doesn't that mean I should go back and address my third uncle as third brother? Or like brother-in-law? Then, can I still keep my ass? Thus the two continued to chat as they made their way to Blizzard Silver City. Xiang City. Li Yuran had began his operation on the second day after Jun Moxie left with the rest. With 3 saints as his aide, Li Yuran felt mighty and powerful. But at the same time, he was a little frightened. He did not ever think that Jun Moxie, the person he had always viewed as his rival, would be this powerful. To require 3 holy lands to send experts of a saint cultivation. And to send 9. In this world, where a venerable was powerful to stand at the top of the food chain, what was the concept behind sending out 9 saints? Facing such a lineup, Li Yuran could only feel terrified. He couldn't even estimate how powerful those forces were. He only knew that any saint could effortlessly destroy the entire Xiang city. This was an unimaginable level of power, and 9 were sent out just to deal with a single Jun Moxie, a mere Jun family. With such capabilities, they were still wary and careful instead of simply wiping out the entire Jun family. What did this mean? What did it suggest? Even at the mention of that mysterious master of Jun Moxie, all 9 of them had a grave expression upon their faces. Li Yuran could vaguely tell. These 9 saints had no confidence in winning that mysterious master of Jun Moxie's. Then what stage was Jun Moxie at now? What stage was his master at? Li Yuran no longer dared to think about these matters because thinking about them was enough to make his blood run cold. Someone like that was his opponent in the past. He was fortunate enough to still be alive. All 3 saints had given the same suggestion at the same time. Test the waters first. See what stage that person is at first before deciding. And since that person is staying at the Jun families, then there will definitely be some sort of clue, no matter how good he is at hiding. So the most important place right now was the Jun family's residence. So Li Yuran had absolutely no time to return home. He had gone over to Second Prince's to establish a base, then rushed off to make arrangements with the people from 3 holy lands. Then on the second morning he returned to Xiang. He brought the 3 saints along and headed over to the Jun family residence. He euphemistically called it a visit. And Li Yuran had a pretty good excuse, Princess Ling Meng. Princess Ling Meng was the emperor's daughter and also once Li Yuran's dream lover. Now that she is resting in the Jun residence, then it's not too much for me to pay a visit. isn't it? This reason was completely logical. So Li Yuran made his way over. The three saints were rather cooperative as well, dressing up as people from his family and following behind him. Although Li Yuran looked light-hearted on the surface, he was extremely anxious on the inside. For the past few days, during their discussions on the journey, as well as meeting the 9 saints last night, Li Yuran developed a hunch: Jun Moxie's master was extremely powerful. So powerful that perhaps nobody was capable of fighting against him. A feeling like this made him terrified. This story will be continued to chapter 741. For those of you who are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. The interesting and best stories will be updated. See you again in the next episode.